seems quite interesting. Like, I want to explore that further, but there was nothing like that in the UK. I got to see a lot of different actors, like Scarlett Johansson, Florence, Pugh. I kind of put the idea to them at 12. And they were like, no, 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 no. There was a lot of different football players there, like Harry Kane. I wouldn't sugarcoat the process.
Today on The Engaging Marketeer, I am speaking with actress, model, singer, beauty pageant contestant and organizer. She set up her own beauty pageant, Jaada Lawrence-Green. Jaada has started her career at the age of 1. I don't think that was her decision to do that, but she has carried it through and has been in a number of television, film and stage productions, including a Marvel movie, Black Widow. This is phenomenal. I'm very excited about this. I'm going to be speaking to Jaada about what she does, how she does it, and how she is so incredibly positive despite being in an industry where you're constantly getting knocked. She's a remarkable lady. Let's get in there with Jaada Lawrence-Green. I believe you started your career at the age of 1. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I started at the age of 1. My family put me into modeling, and that's how I kind of began my career in the industry. They kind of thought maybe I might have like a talent for it, or maybe I might enjoy it and it might be like a fun pastime, but it became something that I really grew to love as I kind of like navigated the industry and like grew within the industry as a child.
So it's not, so modeling and acting isn't really a career you chose. It's a career that was chosen for you and you just went along with it because you enjoyed it and you liked it.
Yeah, so modeling was something that I was put in as a child. So from the age of 1, I started modeling, and then I kind of grew as a model over time. And acting was something that kind of happened, I would say, more like choice led. So I went into a performing arts kind of school and started like learning performing arts. And so I chose to do that because I had a passion for the industry, and that kind of stemmed from modeling. So it was all really helpful, and it made me like realize my passion for the creative industry, starting it so young, and having that foundation as well. So yeah, I think modeling in particular wasn't something that I chose because I was so young, but I think growing up and having the option to choose it and also navigate my way through it as I've gotten older, it's just made me appreciate it even more.
And I presume you can't remember what your first gig was, being 1 year old, but what's your earliest memory of actually working?
Oh, I would say my earliest memory was probably performing arts. So I would say that it was when I went and I did performing arts and I performed in lots of different theatre shows. And I really, really enjoyed that. And that was like my earliest memory of my career within the creative field. I also do have like memories of modeling as well as a kid. And so I remember when I did like a bookcase photo shoot and like really, really loved that. But besides that, when I was like younger, I do have like pictures and things like that of when I did like campaigns as a child. So it's really nice to look back on.
I was going to say, yeah, you must have some really good childhood photos.
Yeah, I do.
My sister took all my photos when I was a kid, and she's a terrible photographer, and most people have their heads cut off in her photos. But you must have some awesome pictures from when you were a kid.
I do. I have some really cool pictures of when I did like campaigns and things like that. And I remember when I did like my first like catwalk as a child, and the pictures that I got from that. So yeah, some really cool pictures, but also some really cheesy ones. I had some like really interesting style choices as a kid. So I mean, honestly, it wasn't all like super polished. Like
What sort of interesting style choices are we talking about here?
So I think everyone had like kind of like a rock kind of punk phase. So like when I was a child, I had like kind of like rock kind of punk phases, and kind of like navigated finding like my style choices. So I kind of went through lots of different phases, which I've got in photos. But I think it's kind of nice though, because now I've kind of found my style, but it's cool to look back on to see like what I went through then.
And there's quite a few famous people that started modelling and acting as very, very young children. One that springs to mind is Patsy Kensit, who was in a P commercial when she was about 4, I think it was. Do you have any people that you look at and say, well, that's the kind of career that I want, that's the kind of person I want to emulate or be better than?
I think for me in particular, I don't have anyone that I want to be better than or kind of emulate. I think for me, my experience in the industry is just trying to be the best version of myself. It's not necessarily having like a pinpointed person who I want to be like. I just feel like as long as I'm like living out my passion and fulfilling all of the things that I really enjoy within the industry, and building on that, that's all that I can ask for.
That's a polished answer, that, isn't it? That's a polished answer. I like. It is a good answer. It's a good answer. In terms of the different aspects of what you do, what is it that gives you the most pleasure?
Cool. I think generally it's fulfilling creativity. So because I do such a wide range of things, I get the opportunity to expand my skill set in so many different ways. So whether that's acting and being on set and fulfilling like my creativity from like an emotional standpoint, and also being able to portray so many different characters, or modeling and being part of campaigns. I think it's being able to kind of test my creative skill set and do it in like different capacities each day sometimes. Yeah, I would say that's what I enjoy most.
And is there a particular type of job that you would like to have that you've not had yet? I don't know, maybe a particular brand, or maybe it's a particular type of genre of film, or maybe music video or something. Is there something that you really want to be able to do?
Yeah. So I quite like horror films. So
Really?
I feel like that, yeah, I know it's like because I'm so like bubbly and smiling, like it's most people don't think like I'm gonna say horror, but like I think it would be so interesting to be a part of like a thriller or a horror film because it's so like contrasting to maybe what you think I might be in, or but yeah, I just think it would be such a cool experience. And I really like how it tests you.
Okay.
So
So you've not been in a horror yet?
Not in a horror, but that's something that I would love to, like a horror thriller. Yeah, that would be interesting.
Have you seen who we've had on this podcast before?
I've seen a few of your guests, yeah.
Yeah. Do you know one of my guests is a friend of mine, is a producer of horror movies?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, it's a guy called Jonathan Sothcott. He produces a lot of action movies as well. So he's done films like We Still Kill the Old Way, Renegade. He's done stuff with Danny Dyer, but he does a lot of horror movies as well. And he's got a horror movie that's coming out later this year about a sort of a clown with a home invasion murder thing. Very gruesome. He's done a lot of horror. He's done werewolf movies. He's done vampire movies.
That sounds interesting.
I shall have to put you in touch with Jonathan.
Yeah, I mean that would be great.
You're London based, aren't you?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Birmingham.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time in Birmingham and in London as well. So
because he's London based.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I will put you in touch with Jonathan after. I'm sure he might be able to help you out there with that. Oh,
that would be amazing.
You've done beauty pageants as well, haven't you?
Yeah, so that was actually something I did as a child.
Yeah.
My beauty pageant history has been like insane actually. So
really?
I like started as a kid, and I love beauty pageants because I think I'd seen Toddlers and Tiaras. I don't know if you know of it.
I've heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, so I saw that show and I was like, oh my goodness, like that seems quite interesting. Like I want to explore that further, but there was nothing like that in the UK at the time that I was little. So I was like, okay, like what can I do? So I took part in beauty pageants and I was like, okay, I really like this, but I want to do it in a more managerial kind of way. So I went into beauty pageants, did them, competed in them, and then decided to run my own as a child.
You ran your own beauty pageant as a child?
Yeah, I know. So I I had like a beauty pageant company, and I ran my own beauty pageants and also made pageant dresses for like international clients in the USA. So it's been quite a journey, pageants, but so much fun.
How old were you when you were doing this?
Oh goodness, very, very young. So at around 13. So I started it when I was like 13 because my parents wouldn't let me have a business because they said I kind of put the idea to them at 12. And they were like, no, 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 no. Maybe when you're a teenager, and they thought I might forget about it. So but I didn't. At 13, I was like, can I do it now? And then they were like, yeah, sure. And they like helped me along the way. And I was designing all the flyers, handling the communication, organizing like where it's going to be held, the prizes, the setups, and then the beauty pageant side of things in terms of the costumes and things. It was communicating with clients in that respect as well, and creating their orders and shipping them off. And yeah, so it's been a little crazy in that field.
So how many beauty pageants did you run in this business you set up when you were 13?
I actually ran quite a few of them. Yeah, and they got a lot of traction. They were actually in the UK, but then I had interest in the USA. But I think it was just from the USA standpoint, it was more the clothing, and then the setup in the UK was a few beauty pageants here.
So what happened to the business? Is it still running, or did you move on to other things?
Yeah, so I decided to move on to other things because I think at that time I was also doing modeling, doing acting, also singing at that time. So I was doing quite a lot of different things and doing like gymnastics, cheerleading, that kind of thing as well. So I thought to myself, maybe I should kind of stop it because it was something that I really enjoyed, but I wanted to see what else I could get out of the industry that I was in and kind of advance that a little bit more. And I'd like love the experience that I had doing beauty pageants. But yeah, I think it's kind of led me to where I am today in terms of the business aspect, because I've always had that like little kind of niggle in terms of business. So it's really helped me in that way.
Yeah, I'll bet. I mean, it's great that your parents support, albeit they made you wait until you were 13, which is disgraceful. But it's good that they supported you in that as well, because a lot of parents, child comes to them, oh, I've got a business idea. It's, oh, no, I don't help with this. But yeah, you had the support, you had the help. I love that.
Yeah, no, they were really, really supportive. I think at first they were like, let's see how she gets on and see what this is, because beauty pageants was so new to like everybody at that point. So yeah, it was a learning process for all of us. But yeah, I really love the journey, and I'm so glad that I got to do it.
Of course, beauty pageants do have a bit of a stigma, and there's a fair bit of negativity attached to them. Again, mostly because of America. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think I definitely recognize the stigma that's associated with beauty pageants, but I think that they can also be done in a fun way. And you can get a lot out of beauty pageants, especially in terms of like confidence building. That was something that I emphasized when I was doing my beauty pageants and also competing in them too. Like it was more for like confidence building, for the experiences of being on a stage, and also the friendships that you make within that. There's so much that you can take from it. And yeah, I think it's about mindset as well. So you have to have like an encouraging mindset and a confident mindset, and also a good foundation of family and friends around you when you're competing in beauty pageants, because it can like test your own confidence, your own self-confidence as well. So yeah, I think you can take good from the situation, and you can really enjoy them.
Did you get any issues with very, very competitive, overbearing, typically mothers in beauty pageants?
Lots. Lots of them, yeah.
So that's not a cliche then. That is a thing. That's genuine.
Honestly, I think within any field where there is competition, there's always going to be an element, especially when there are like younger children competing against one another and parents who are overseeing that. There's always going to be that element of maybe a parent wanting to step in just to support their child. Or yeah, I can understand it. I think at the time when I experienced like interacting with those types of parents, I was like, oh my goodness, like I was still processing it myself. But like as I've gotten older and I've like learned a lot more, I kind of understand how like parents can come across that way. It's more of a protective mechanism a lot of the time. So I get it. I do get it. I understand that.
Yeah. And did any of them go too far and do things they shouldn't have done?
No.
No.
No. I think it was more protecting their child, because it's a nerve-wracking experience being on stage, and parents want to support their children throughout the process, and they want them to have the best experience and be the best on stage. So a lot of it was more so making sure that child got their timings right and they were on point with like their routine that they practiced. So the overbearingness kind of came with wanting their child to succeed in that field, just as much as the child a lot of the time.
So when you finished the beauty pageants, I know you've done some stage work, and one of the things that stuck right out at me, I mentioned this to you when we first spoke over email, was you've been in a production to do with the Jackson 5. I'm a massive Michael Jackson fan. Can you tell me about that? Just what was it about?
Yeah, so that was looking at the history. It was a docuseries, and it was looking at the history of the Jackson 5. So I was really fortunate to play Hazel, Gordy in that. That was an incredible experience from the cast and crew. Overall, it was just undescribable. As you can imagine, I can't even describe it myself. It was such a memorable experience to be a part of that and to be able to be a part of telling their story. I remember on set, they kind of revealed that I would be doing like the wedding part of the aspect because of the relationship that Jermaine Jackson had with Hazel. So that was really lovely to get to do, and to get to see the wedding dress and the setup that they made. It was incredible, the work that went behind everything. So yeah, it was such a good experience to be a part of Breaking the Band.
And did you get to meet any of the Jacksons while you're doing it as well?
No, so I didn't get to meet any of the Jacksons, but that would have been insane. Like, because I'm a huge Jackson fan as well. But all of it was shot independently. So the scenes that you will have seen in Breaking the Band of telling the story, they were all shot like independently, and then they got like the interview sections independently as well, and everything was pieced together. So yeah.
Oh, that's a bit of a shame then, isn't it, that it was done like that? Because you don't get that camaraderie feel. You don't get to mix with everybody else.
Yeah, I think sometimes it depends on the concept of the TV show, but it depends. Because of the locations of them, it would have been a little bit tricky to do it. And because part of it was filmed in the UK and then the interviews would have been filmed with them, it was probably the easiest way to navigate it. So I understand it, but I would have loved to meet them. Like, that would have been amazing. So hopefully one day, you never know.
One day. Did you get any feedback or any sort of response from them about it?
Not. I don't think so. No, I think no. I don't think we did. No.
That's a shame. That's a shame to be in something like that and not hear from the Jacksons about what they thought.
I think they probably will have corresponded with the production team about it, but yeah, I haven't followed up with like.
See, I'd want to know. I'd want to know.
I
I'd want to know what they thought.
Yeah, I think I hope that we did the story justice. But yeah, it was amazing that they were a part of it and also able to have their input in terms of like the interview section as well. So I mean, yeah, hopefully they loved it.
How did you get a role like that? What was the process?
So that was actually an audition process. So yeah, I remember just auditioning for the role, and I'd worked with a production company before. So funnily enough, I'd actually done Breaking the Band like a little while before that, but with NWA as the concept.
Okay. Very different to the Jackson 5.
So different. But yeah, it was really nice to work with that team again. It was just, I auditioned and then I was like, oh, okay. I did look up Hazel Gordy online and I was like, oh, wow, okay. I can kind of see similarities, but I don't know. You never really know with these things. So I was just like, send off your audition tape and see. And then, yeah, I got a call to say you've gotten the job and yeah, you're in for filming. So just come along for the filming day, which was really good.
Oh, so that was the part you auditioned for then? Because sometimes you audition for a role and they pick you for something else that you're not auditioned for.
Yeah, so it depends. Like a lot of the time you can audition for singular roles. So I think, yeah, most of the time I am auditioning for singular roles, but then there can be the odd occasions, depending on the production, they might ask you to audition for like different roles. But for this one, it was primarily they were looking for Hazel Gordy kind of lookalikes, characteristics, and then they'd kind of do their hair, do their makeup to try and emulate Hazel as much as possible. So yeah, that was how my audition process went with that one.
That's simple. I mean, the job you're in, I mean, acting is a bit of a cutthroat job, isn't it? You know, you can go to a lot of auditions and not get it. What does it feel like doing auditions and not getting the role that you want?
Oh, I would say, I think when I was little, I used to really kind of put a lot of emphasis on not getting the auditions because you do the auditions, and sometimes, depending on how far you get within the process, you can really kind of envision yourself within that role. And so, yeah, it can be extremely disappointing not to get the role. But I think as I've grown older, I've kind of learned like what will be will be, and like you can't really like put too much emphasis on roles that you don't get. You just have to kind of go with the flow and do your best within that moment, and then navigate it from there. And if you get the role, amazing. If you don't, then you've learned something from it. And to be honest, a lot of the time, to get that far in the process, from the audition process to shortlisting to recalls, you've done amazing. So that's something that I always think about as well.
Okay, I'm just pausing a second. I can hear a lot of knocking going on in the background. Is that what is that? Is your end, isn't it?
It is. I can get that one moment.
I was just wondering what it was, because it sounds like someone's trying to break in.
I'll get that. It's my dog.
That's your dog knocking.
Yeah, it's a chihuahua as well, so it's
no
crazy.
way is that cannot be a chihuahua making that noise.
Pomeranian chihuahua, so it's. I mean, they're like little, they're tiny, so I don't know why they're so loud.
What has he got? A hammer?
No, I think they're just excited, like maybe a little bit too excited.
Good grief! He seems to have stopped.
They have. I might. Is it okay if I just?
If you want to check. Let's do that. Let's do that. Yeah, go on.
Sorry.
It's all right.
Please mind the gap.
Hello.
Hi. So we've got them. Yeah, they were just really excited as usual.
I just can't imagine that a chihuahua can make that kind of noise.
Honestly, we couldn't either. Like, they shock you. Like, I don't know why they're so loud, but they are.
Just, very excited dogs. Very excited dogs. Let's go back to start of your career when you were in musicals. You were the lead in Footloose, I believe, the musical.
Yeah, so I wasn't actually the lead in Footloose, but I was part of Footloose. And that was with the drama school that I worked with. And that was such an amazing experience. And that's kind of where my passion for acting began. So I'm so glad to have had that experience. It was so much fun. And till this day, I still can't get the songs out of my head.
Can you not? Well, a lot of people can't, I believe.
Yeah, it's just, the songs are infectious.
So shooting for film and television is one thing. It's stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. There's a lot of waiting around. There's a lot of being in makeup chairs and that. But musical is bang, you've started, all the way through, constant, and there's an awful lot of pressure in it. There's a lot of worry that, if you mess up, there's a lot of people seeing it, you're letting a lot of people down on the stage. Do you suffer from any kind of anxiety, fear, stage fright, nerves before you go out on a stage performance like that?
I think when it comes to stage, I always do get nervous, but I think that's natural because everything has to kind of run kind of as you think it will do, like as planned. In your mind, you're like, I've practiced and hopefully it all goes well. So there's the pressure of it running effectively. And especially with a live audience as well. It's so different to like TV and film as well, where you can kind of retake and kind of get the take as perfect as you can do. So I would say there is like a lot of pressure behind it. And I would say there is it does make you a little bit nervous, but it also adds to the enjoyment of it because you get that adrenaline rush as well with it.
So it's a good nervous and it's something that you like doing.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's something that I haven't done in a while, but it's definitely something that I enjoy.
I think it would terrify me. It would terrify me. I mean, do you ever have to worry that you forget any of the routine, you forget any of the lines, you forget any of the lyrics to songs. Does that not happen?
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, it does,
Like,
right?
there's always no. Honestly, like I think there's always the worry that you're going to forget your lines, you're going to forget your song, or you're going to forget a move that you've practiced. But I think you can only do your best at the end of the day. So I think going into it, if I was to go into it now, I wouldn't. I'd try not to put as much pressure on myself to like get everything perfect because you've practiced as much as you can, and you can only really do your best. So yeah, just let it happen and just enjoy the process.
So you don't come off stage afterwards and think, oh, I missed that line, or I got that word in the wrong order, or I did that move wrong, and you don't beat yourself up about it.
I think it depends. I think if I know that I've done my best in that moment and I've just completely forgotten a line, because I think it happens to everyone, I'm just like give myself grace and like there'll be another time to perform it. And with stage in particular, you're performing like multiple shows a day. So yeah, you can have another opportunity to kind of do your best at the next point. So I'd probably take it in and acknowledge that that was something that I struggled with and then try and correct it, but not necessarily beat myself up about it because everyone makes mistakes. You can't be perfect. So you've just got to try your best the next time.
That's such a relaxed, calming attitude. I think a lot of people could benefit from thinking like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, everyone's different, and I totally get like people that will understandably like beat themselves up about it. Like I understand that because it's such a huge deal and it's a lot of pressure. So I get both sides of it. But I think it's come with over time having the experience of like navigating different industries that I've kind of had that outlook. Like whereas as a child I was very much like yeah, very intently thinking, oh my goodness, like what do I do now kind of thing. But as you have that experience and you understand like it's okay to mess up, you can try again and it'll all be fine. Like just not put so much pressure on yourself and just enjoy the process because you're so fortunate to be there. You don't need to beat yourself up about it.
Oh, so do you think then the fact that you started your career so young and you've done so many different types of disciplines within the industry helps you that you don't hyper focus on something quite so much?
Yeah, I think in terms of like being super critical, I think that it's helped a lot. I think that having exposure to different industries has really, really helped in terms of like the way that I see like the audition process, the way that I see like my role on set, and the way that I kind of navigate my way through the industry in general. I think it's given me like a wider outlook and also a less critical outlook.
Wow.
Because you get to kind of understand like whether you're working with like different types of crew, they can give you their input as well. And you understand that sometimes it's not always you, sometimes it is you, but there are ways to fix that. There's always like a way around everything. And yeah, like even within auditions, you can go to an audition and think, oh my goodness, like I didn't get the role, or oh, maybe I've gotten the role. I don't know if I've gotten the role. And you kind of overthink the process. But there's just so many different intricacies of like that process in general, the audition process, that, it might not have been your performance. It could have been many different aspects. Sometimes they don't always know what they're looking for. And so that's why I try not to beat myself up about it. But yeah, navigating different industries has really helped.
Which is strange because your attitude is really refreshing. I've not encountered somebody who's so, yay, it could go well, it's all fine, we'll get another chance at it. In your industry, though, in theatre and in film and in television, you often come across directors and producers who don't take that attitude, who are very, that's got to be done absolutely right, and they can get quite dictatorial, quite tyrannical about it. Have you encountered that, or have you just been lucky with working with happy people?
No, I feel like you work with a range of people, and I think I understand the pressure on set. So I totally get like there are time constraints, and it's a massive amount of budget a lot of the time that's invested within the opportunities that you're working on. So there's a lot of pressure there from the crew, in terms of like orchestrating that entire process. So I totally get it. I get the frustrations when like maybe it's taking too long to get a line right, or certain things that you envisage just aren't going the way that you planned because you're sticking to like timings. So yeah, I understand it.
I mean, especially when one of the projects you've worked on was the Marvel movie Black Widow. That's other end of the scale when it comes to scale and budget and expectations from a film. What was it like being on set for that?
Yeah, that was incredible. Such an incredible experience. I worked with an amazing team, and the set in general, each setup was just mind blowing. It was it was incredible, and the time that they put into creating the sets, and yeah, just everything about that experience was just indescribable. But yeah, it was such a good experience.
And was there anybody that you met on that you were able to learn from experience?
Yeah, so I got to see a lot of different actors like Scarlett Johansson, Florence, Pugh, and watching them on screen was incredible. Florence Pugh, it's just incredible on screen. Like all of the actors there were just so amazing to like watch and learn from. It's like their confidence, the way that they come across, and also like their generosity, like behind the scenes as well. They were just such lovely people. And Rachel Weisz as well, she was so lovely. I think it just taught me about their personalities, their confidence, their attitude, and how they approach the acting field, which was nice. It was really, really nice to see.
And could you tell us what your role specifically was within that production?
Yeah, so I was a double for Lorato. So that was played by Liani Samuel. So I was her double within the movie.
So were you in just for lighting, or were there actual shots of you used in the film when they didn't need to see her face?
Yeah, so they used me for shots where her face wasn't used, basically. So it would be like behind shots, just shots where her face isn't like fully visualized. But yeah, it was such a cool experience.
So you can watch that film back on Disney Plus and point at it and go, "That's me."
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think there are shots.
Or were you that good a double that you can't tell the difference between you and her? Which is really the way it should be.
I hope you can't tell the difference.
It's the way it should be, shouldn't it? It's the way it should be.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it was really, really cool experience working on that production. Yeah, from like explosions and things like that. It was just insane.
Have you got anything that you're working on that is going to be coming out that you can tell us about?
Not that I can tell you about. I don't think I would be able to.
Thought as much.
I know. I really wish I could.
Yeah.
But generally, there's just been so many different projects that I've worked on. Yeah, and it's really exciting, and I can't wait to share when I can share those.
So, how much of your, because a lot of actors, it's a bit of a cliche. A lot of actors are often between work, and you go to a coffee shop in LA and everybody's an actor. That sort of thing. How much do you actually work on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, and how much is you looking for the roles that you want?
Yeah, so I think it varies. Honestly, it varies like week to week. So some weeks you can go and you can have like maybe quite a few jobs. Maybe that's 3 jobs, 4 jobs. You know, it can really vary from like week to week. Yeah, I don't think there's a definitive amount of jobs that I kind of get per week, or it just varies as to like what comes in. So yeah, it can be just such a wide range of roles, from like acting, modeling, presenting. So yeah, it varies. But yeah.
When kids are in school and they think, "Oh, I want to be an actor, I want to be an actress, I want to be a model," they're looking at the dream aspect to it, the glamorous aspect, the standing on the red carpet at the Cannes Film Festival, that kind of thing. It's not always that glamorous, though, is it? Have you got any examples of like where it's happened where you think, do you know what? I'd rather be in an office. I'd rather be sat in front of a computer typing at a desk because this isn't that pleasant. Anything like that, for example?
Yeah, I feel like Do you know, I don't think I've had the like, I'd rather be doing a different job,
Yeah.
but definitely I'd rather like the weather be better. Like, so like there was a job where it was basically a modeling job for a campaign. And we traveled to like Wales, and it was like yoga themed.
Wales. You just drop in Wales there. Oh, that's the place I don't want to go to, Wales. I apologise to anybody Welsh listening to this, including me. But go on, Jada. You throw some shade on Wales. Go on.
No, Wales was beautiful, but like we just didn't have weather on our side on that day.
That's Wales for you, isn't
it? Yeah. It was like pouring down with rain, but the shots required us, because of the beautiful like landscapes of Wales, like we had to be outside, we had to be in that environment. But yeah, it all came together at the end, but it was pouring down with rain, and it was a lot. It was a lot, but the shots look incredible. Like when I saw the final shots, I was like, oh my goodness, that was so worth it. But in the moment, it was pouring down with rain, so I was just like, oh my goodness.
So was that photography, modeling, or was that video, television? What was that?
Yeah, so that was a modeling campaign that I did a while back, actually.
So they were all photographs. So in the pictures, could you tell that it was raining, or were you supposed to be able to tell that it was raining?
You can't tell at all.
Wow,
no,
that's the magic of photography, isn't it?
Yeah, they did such a good job with that, because you cannot tell at all. And I can see their vision. It was so worth it in the end. Like, yeah, I'd probably do it again. Like, for that shot, it was incredible. It was so worth it.
Yeah, so I presume this was sort of Welsh landscape, South Wales, Brecon Beacons, that kind of thing?
It was, I can't remember where in Wales it was. Yeah, the area of Wales has escaped me, but it was, we were just...
There's a lot of fields and hills, I expect.
Hills, fields, and we were like hiking to get the locations.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It was a lot, but it was really, really cool. Honestly, it's one of those jobs that I'll always remember.
If it was hills and hiking, there's a really famous horror movie that was shot on those hills in South Wales. American Werewolf in London. The hiking scenes where they were attacked by the werewolf were shot in the Brecon Beacons, so you may well have been in the same place.
I'll double check.
So if you did do horror movies, that's the kind of situation you would be in back in the rain in Wales. That's what you got to put up with.
Honestly, cool.
You're happy with it?
I'll try it.
If it was photography, then surely they must have had you completely covered because of your hair.
No.
No?
So it was... to be honest, they did such a good job of like having an umbrella, having multiple layers on me, but because it was like more yoga themed, I had to be in my yoga outfit, and I had to kind of fulfill the criteria of it being like outdoorsy and not raining. So yeah, and they did such a good job in between takes of like keeping me shielded, keeping me cozy, keeping me warm. But yeah, no, my hair wasn't thoroughly covered, just in between takes it was.
Right. So that's as unglamorous as it gets then, Wales. Okay. In terms of glamour then, purely, if I imagine for modelling, you'll have been to different locations to do photographs, some glamorous locations, nice places that people would really like to go to. What sort of venues have you been, and what sort of cities, countries?
So a lot of my work has actually been within the UK.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Of modelling, but I'd love to travel abroad and do more modelling abroad. So that's something, it's definitely on my list of things to do.
Yeah, so you've been UK bound for the most of it then?
Yeah, a lot of things that I've shot have been within the UK. Yeah.
See, I'd have thought you'd have gone off to places like Venice and Florence and Rome. No?
No, I actually haven't done that yet, but that is on my list. So hopefully I get to do that at some point.
Okay, anyone listening to this that wants to photograph a beautiful lady in Florence or Venice or Rome, then Jaada is up for that. She is up for that, but she wants it warm. And she needs umbrellas just in case it rains. Don't take her to Wales. She's not going to be down with that unless it's for a horror movie and she's getting attacked by a werewolf. Then she's okay with it.
I mean, yeah, sure.
Okay. You've done a lot of advertising. You've done a lot of branding stuff. What sort of brands have you worked with?
Yeah, so I recently did a Skechers commercial,
Oh,
and that was so much fun. It was for the release of their new Evolution pack. And yeah, that was really, really cool. There was a lot of different football players there, like Harry Kane. Um, but then, yeah, I did a Nando's one as well. I had a very football kind of last year. So that was with Saka because he had a new sauce coming out,
hmm.
the Saka sauce,
Yeah.
which was so good, by the way. Like, did you try that?
I didn't know Bukayo Saka had a Saka sauce makes sense. Yeah, that kind of works. Yeah. What sort of sauce has he got?
It was like it's not out now, but like at the time it was basically like a fruity Nando sauce.
Oh,
Like
so that was a
I thought it might
Nando's.
be interesting.
Right, that was just for Nando's. Okay.
Yeah. And
Well,
it that was so much fun to film.
yeah.
Like such a good experience. We were playing like sous chefs and within the narrative that they shot. And yeah, that it was really, really cool.
So was
So
Saka meant to be the chef himself for making it, was he?
yeah,
And does he
so
really know what he's doing in a kitchen?
he's pretty good. Yeah. Yeah, I would say so. He did such a good job.
Yeah. You have to say
Yeah,
that. You have to say that, though. You've got to maintain the brand.
no, no. I think genuinely, he did such a good job.
Mm.
And he was, it's like you don't really get to see that side of him because a lot of people at that time, he's been in a lot of different campaigns,
Mm.
but at that time, it was less commercial style things. I remember recalling at that time, I was like, oh, I haven't seen him in many commercials,
Mm.
especially of this nature as well.
Yeah.
So I think he did such a good job. And since then, like I've seen him in so many other ones, and yeah, just always rooting for him
Well,
because
he's
yeah,
got a bit of
super
time on his hands at the minute because he's been injured for quite a while, unfortunately.
yeah, I heard.
Yeah.
I was like, that's such a shame.
Mm. He also got a lot of hate directed towards him after missing penalties in the penalty shootout for the Euros in 2021. Was your shooting with him, was it after that or was it before that?
Yeah, so this was actually shot last year.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, so very, very recent.
Yeah. It's good. Do you follow football at all?
Not as much as I should do. I think I should follow it a little bit more.
No, I was just wondering whether that came up because there was a lot of hatred aimed towards him and Marcus Rashford, and I forget who the other player was, but it was because they missed penalties, and obviously it's not their fault. It didn't happen. You know, they can't help it, but there was a lot of real vitriol aimed at them. And being a sports star, that's the kind of stuff that you got to put up with. And it's not right, it's not big, it's not clever, but that happens. I'm just wondering if you're obviously putting yourself out there as well. You're putting yourself on stage, you're putting yourself on TV, you're putting yourself in films. Do you ever worry about that coming towards you, getting negative reviews, getting criticism, getting somebody saying, "Oh, she was terrible in this. I hated it. I'm not watching it because she's been cast in it." That sort of thing.
Yeah, I think within anything that you do, there's always going to be some sort of criticism. And I think I understand it, but it doesn't make it right because at the end of the day, there's always a person behind that experience. So you need to always think about how your words are affecting the other person. But it's not something that I really worry about too much. Like, I know that within what I do, there's always going to be some level of criticism or some sort of opinion that may be opposing. So, yeah, I think it's just part of the process.
Yeah.
It's not something that I have to internalize because it's just part of the job. But yeah, it doesn't make it right at all. But I understand that everyone has an opinion. So just, yeah, let them have it.
I think everyone needs your level of positivity. It's incredible. You just don't care what people think. Yep, I'm happy. I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm enjoying it. It's great. Other than the rain in Wales, of course, which was a real downer on your career. Everything else has been fantastic.
I mean, but yeah, I think it's come over time. But yeah, it's just I think criticism wise, there's not anything that you can really do about it. Just because people have their opinions, honestly, it's not necessary to internalize it. But I understand how you can internalize it and how it can affect people. So that's why I say, like, you should really be careful with your words because you don't know how that recipient is going to receive that information. Even if you just meant it for fun or just to kind of poke judgment at them and thinking that it won't affect them. Because a lot of the time, the people behind the screens don't really think about that.
No.
And they should.
Yeah, absolutely. I imagine doing the beauty pageants probably helped you as well, because you've got to develop a bit of a thick skin doing that from such a young age.
Yeah, you've got to develop like a major thick skin, like beauty pageants. There's a lot of criticism there. So from a very young age, that's something that I developed. And I think modeling wise as well, it's kind of been navigating my way, especially as a young child through the industry and learning how to take on criticism has kind of helped me now. And that's why I have these outlooks. It's because I've experienced it from such a young age and learned so many things from the process that I can kind of like look at it now and say like, you don't need to internalize it. There's other reasons behind why you've gotten that result from this process. But yeah, it's just having a different take on the experience.
Based on your what you've experienced, and I think I know the answer to this as well, you're going to be perfectly happy with it because this is the kind of positive person that you are. But if you have a little sister or a cousin, a child that comes to you and says, I want to get into beauty pageants, I want to get into modelling, I want to get into acting, would you recommend it to them and would you offer help them? What would your advice be?
Yeah, so I think if someone comes to me and they'd like to get into the industry, I would definitely recommend getting into the industry.
I thought you might.
I think, but I think there's also recognizing that you need to like see it from your perspective and not from my experience or anybody else's experience. You've got to experience it for yourself and see whether you actually love it, because there's a lot of criticism. It's a lot of hard work. And I wouldn't sugarcoat the process. There is a lot of like a glamorous side to it, and being in movies and being in commercials, being in films, and yeah, these things are all amazing, but there is a lot of hard work that goes beyond all of that. And that's something that you've got to navigate too, alongside whether you can take the criticism and whether this would be something that you can look at yourself doing long term. So yeah, I'd say go in, try it, see how you feel, and yeah, just grow, learn from that experience. Whatever you get out of it, just take it on for yourself and see how you go.
Is there any part of what you do that you think, I don't really enjoy that? It's not something I want to keep doing?
I think it's crazy because I don't think there is at this point.
I thought there wouldn't be.
Do you know, because like I feel like now I'm in a position where I'm doing everything that I really like to do. Like there's not anything that I kind of wake up every day thinking, oh my goodness, like I don't want to do this. Like I've taken on like different jobs, from acting, modeling, presenting, singing, from content creation, like all of these things I absolutely love doing. So I think for me it's just a case of just like fulfilling these things regularly in rotation.
Do you think there's enough help provided in schools and education level for people that want to do what you do?
No, I don't think so. I think there isn't enough help, but I think the industry is something that it's hard to navigate from an academic perspective, because I've seen like acting courses being taught at like universities and colleges and things like that. And sometimes the feedback that I've gotten from people who have taken them is that their experience is so different when they enter the industry to what they had learned, like contrastingly different. And sometimes the people that are teaching them haven't really had that exposure to the industry. Now, sometimes you do get cases where you're taught by people who have had that exposure, and so your teaching is pretty in line with what you're expecting to experience within the industry. But where it's not, some people just it makes it even harder because they don't know what to expect when they enter, and they're having like all of these thoughts of like, oh, like I'm going to go in, I'm going to book my first job as soon as I get in because it's what I've been told. Or yeah, so I don't think there's enough kind of experience sometimes in that area. But where there is, and where you're taught by lecturers that have actually had that exposure, then it can be incredibly helpful when you get into the industry.
Okay. In terms of what your I mean, we're almost out of time now, so you've got a couple more things. In terms of what you're looking to do in the future, a lot of people who are in acting get involved with, as soon as they can, get involved with the production, get involved with directing, try to prolong their careers from when they're not in front of the camera, when they're behind the camera. Is that something you've got any aspirations to do, or you've done already?
So I haven't actually looked into directing or producing, but that's something that I would definitely consider, because I think it would be such an interesting way to navigate the industry. I think I'd really enjoy it. And from what I've seen of that, it looks incredible, and something that I could see myself doing for sure. But yeah, that side of things I haven't actually thoroughly looked into, but it's something that I kind of see as an option in the future.
Because if you're clearly creative, and it's the kind of role that would, certainly the directing, not so much the producing, would benefit somebody who is creative and has a vision, because it'll allow you to take control and do what you want to do rather than being told by someone else what to do. Yeah,
I can definitely see myself looking into that career path. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I think right now, I'm fine with everything that I'm doing. But yeah, it's definitely an option that...
Of course you are. Of course you're fine with everything what you do. Massively positive person. You love everything you do. We're almost out of time now. So the final thing to ask is, for anyone listening to this, like a producer, for example, of horror movies, Jonathan, who thinks, I love the sound of Jaada, I love her look, I want to get involved. What's the best way for someone to reach out to you?
Yeah, so I have a website, and that's a great way to reach out to me. So my website is jaadalawrence-green.com. And I also have social media as well. So on Instagram as JadaLG, and also on Twitter, and also on TikTok as JadaLG as well. So you can find me there, as well as YouTube. I'm on YouTube as well.
Of course, YouTube. Fabulous. I will put those links for the website and the social media below the podcast. So anyone listening to this on iTunes or on Spotify, it's in the description below. If you're on YouTube or you're on LinkedIn or whatever, we'll put it in the description as well, so you can reach out directly to Jaada that way. Jaada, thank you very much for being on the podcast. I've loved it. It's such a change speaking to somebody who is so unbelievably positive. You have no negative thoughts whatsoever. Everything is amazing, apart from the rain in Wales. Thank you very much.
No, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.